Hey guys, welcome to another Marksman build guide, this time around the newly added bow Dragonsong, which got introduced with patch 0.8.5. Before I start, written forum build guide and the gear planner is down in the description below, so if you have any questions, leave a comment here or on the forum. About the newly added bow, got a pretty strong proc called Dragonfire. Basically, each added spell damage applies at 900% effectiveness, which is pretty good in Endgame right now. So let's look over the stats that the bow has. First of all, it's a level 36 unique. I have no clue why it's 36. Longbows normally are level 50, I guess. And to have a unique longbow already, 36 is ridiculously strong. So if you really start with this build at level 36, you are so powerful early on. I can see this bow maybe change to like 50 or 60 requirement, which is fine because endgame will still be the same. The stats, we get flat fire damage to spells and attacks, which makes it already really good in the beginning once you equip the bow, because we don't have that much dex. So it's basically a dex stacking build. I'm currently sitting at 70 dexterity, and I play with the Morning Frost boots because it's basically the only source where we can get that spell damage for this bow. The attacks for Dragonfire are Fire, Spell, and Dexterity. So like I said, just Dexterity stacking and this build will get really strong. It also got +2 to fire skills. Cinder Strike is a fire skill. Detonating Arrow with this conversion is a fire skill. Acid Flask, you can do Decoy, Hail of Arrows. There are a lot of fire skills that you can use with this bow. In general, this bow allows you to have way more build freedom compared to Reign of Winter. So Lizard's Bow Mage. I think Reign of Winter is only on bow hit. And the last stat here is basically chance to cast Dragonfire on crit. So you have way more build freedom and skill variety where you can basically use this bow. The third one is really interesting, or basically the best stat, increased attack speed with fire skills. I will tell you later why attack speed is so strong with this build. We get up to +7, I have to show you all the rolls. Up to +7 base critical strikes chance with fire skills. This makes it, of course, a little bit easier to crit immediately once you fight enemies. But normally with Marksman you don't have any problems with crit because we can simply abuse Woundmaker and you crit pretty much all the time. So yeah, not a big problem. And like I said, the last stat, up to 34% chance to proc it with a crit. So it's basically a good old PoE CoC build, cast on crit. And yeah, before I start, I will show you a quick gameplay. I'm just at Corruption 132, no matter blah blah blah. Let's just start and go right into it. Really strong so far. I tested Arena. I reached, I think, like, I don't know, I did 220 with my first run. You can definitely push it into 300. Just get rhythm here. As you can see, it's basically just holding left click, holding right click for stutter stabbing. I use shift to get the shurikens up. I use smoke bomb to do the backflip and to get all the dusk shrouds and everything. I also have Multishot on my skill bar. Normally it has an auto proc from Cinder Strike. It's basically not that good as with the flurry Multishot proc. If you self-cast it, you can pretty much nuke the bosses. I will explain you later why this is so strong. Maybe I can show it here real quick. It has to crit a bit more often. Now, there was a one-shot. Backflip, do the multi-shot, that. And the last one, multi-shot. You can see that the damage is really ridiculous. with this proc. As you can see, also the cone, so the proc itself has a really small cone, so you cannot really like stay on range. You have to base tank the enemies, but it's also really good because you have the Shurikens, which can also crit, and this allows you to basically proc the Dragonfire all the time. Let's go over to Arena real quick, because there we have a new dummy where we can test all the stuff. Quiver. Later. Where is it? Here. I will go there because I use an idol which only basically adds some stats when you attack a rare enemy or a boss, which is this one. So about the game mechanics and the stats, I will show you real quick. The resistances are pretty good for 70 dexterity, because Morning Frost basically reduces physical and cold resistance for each point of dexterity. So it's a little bit difficult to balance your resistances, but yeah, it's possible, of course, with just the regular gear that you can get here. I will show you all the alternatives later, what you can do, and also I linked it in the build planner. So I have 43 base dodge, 22 base armor, the glancing blow is at 31. Basically how you play is like this: you stand next to boss all the time, smoke bomb, shift, and as you can see, the dodge is pretty good because I constantly attack with Cinder Strike. The armor is getting up. At the end, if we add arrow guard, it looks a little bit better. Just look at the glancing blow and look at the armor. So really tanky marksman, sure. But right now, at the moment, I'm still playing with this quiver here because it has dex, bow attack speed, and some good resistances. Later, when I find like a good arrow guard with LP, I'll switch to it. Yeah, let's go over to the skills. Cinder Strike, I also try to tell you all the leveling process for each skill and also for the passives already. So you can immediately start with Cinder Strike. I think it's around level 6, 7, 8, something like this. We go here, 2 points, doesn't matter. 2 points here for the fire. Rest Shred also doesn't matter. But we want to get the Burning Daggers and here the Fire Breathing. Those two nodes basically allows you to have a little bit more procs, which can also crit, so we have more chances to proc the Dragonfire. Once you add this one, it costs 8 mana. When you go here, it only costs 7 mana to sustain that. We use Sapping Strikes. Normally 3 points are enough to sustain the whole mana. As you can see, absolutely no mana problems. But I went just simply 4 points because we also get the health gain. And we don't use any leech, it's just all about life on hit or life on crit, which yeah, pretty much makes the health bar full all the time. After that, we go over here for the increased attack speed. Then we go to the oil coating. This is pretty much the node that makes build really good once you convert it to elemental damage. It's really important to know that it's not fire damage where all the damage comes from. You get flat cold spell damage. So right now I'm sitting at 70 flat cold damage. The reason why I converted is, of course, that we can scale the cold damage as well with the elemental conversion. Otherwise, we would only scale the fire damage, which is not a lot. So that's why you convert it here. 3 points for simply the fire penetration. We don't use the ignite. And this one is really strong. In a defensive way, we get dodge each time when we attack. You can see how the dodge basically goes up. I'm still sitting at +1 on Cinder Strike, so the last point will go in here. If you find a exalted T7 Cinder Strike, then you can put them here, 2 points, and then a couple more points into Fire Shred. Multishot. I will go to Multishot later. I will go to Shift first. So the classic setup, we get the mana, we get the movement speed after we use Shift. Then we get the invulnerability, a couple points into dodge rating per attacks. So if you look at that again, it goes really high up for second. 5 points is really important into the Shurikens, which we will proc the shield around you. And the last couple of points I just put into here to get the healing per point of dexterity, and the last one is in here. For Shurikens, 3 points here. Then we go here to get the shield around you, the duration, the armor, classic setup. Really important, of course, also the pierce chance that basically you have it longer time, otherwise it would like immediately run out. And we don't use this node this time because we have no physical or poison, so I used it to get more base crit, so that there's a higher chance that the Shurikens also proc the Dragonfire more often. Then for Smoke Bomb, I went also a pretty classic way, so we get the 5 points for the duration. I just put 1 point into here to get blind all the time, so while I'm standing inside the Smoke Bomb, I pretty much blind the enemies all the time. You don't have to do it, I just found it interesting to use it. We get the slow stack, the Dusk Shrouds with the frequency, the classic Silver Shroud abuse also with the Marksman tree, and the last one goes into the backflip. I really like the backflip, so how I play this like this. Basically I have like a new movement skill, and how I approach the enemies is like this. So I hold left click, I hold right click for starter stepping, shift, backflip again, so that I always stay close to the enemy. But also my Shurikens can pretty much proc the Dragonfire all the time. So it's up to you if you want to use the backflip. I find it like really cool to play around it. And the last skill is Multishot. You don't have to use it, but there's a lot of other skills, and this was pretty much the best damage outcome. So we go here into the armor shred, we go into the auto fire. Like I said before, it doesn't proc it that often with Cinder Strike compared to the classic flurry setup. But I basically use Multishot with this node right here, the Giant Slayer. So basically each arrow that you fire can hit the enemy, and once you bring up the crit vulnerability, pretty much like every arrow on Multishot can crit. And also really important note, Dragonfire has no internal cooldown, which makes it pretty strong. That's why I use basically Multishot only to nuke the bosses at the end. The rest, the classic Pierce setup. Normally you go over here, but since we are not using Multishot that often, so you cannot really hit the 8 attacks. That's why I went over here to get the low chance, and there's also like a slow duration for each point of dexterity, which is a pretty good addition, I think, to this build. Alternatives. I played with Dark River. I went the Frenzy route here, then 5 points into Dust Shrouds, 5 points into here that you don't need the Dark River on your toolbar. Basically, when you attack, you see some black arrows around you, and you just have to shift on top of them. You get a free Frenzy buff, and also if you go here into the kill threshold, it's cool for Monolith bosses because once they have like a 15% life left, you can just shift on top of a black arrow, shoot once, and the enemy is dead. That's a cool way to play around it. I also tried Hail of Arrows with this setup here. So what I was doing, I was shooting like the Hail of Arrows on top of me, and I get extra Dusk Shrouds. The only problem is that this node is a little bit bugged because the character sheet was giving me wrong numbers, and I didn't know if this was really like working. That's why I didn't use it at the end. And where the fuck is Multishot? And the last one I tried, what I also liked, but it was a little bit that's bringing me much to play with Umbral Blades. This node that the shadows can drop them. Blade Storm setup in here for chill chance. Then you only have to put 1 point, you leave it out here and put 1 point here, and for Smoke Bomb you don't go to the backflip, but you point here to get a 100% chance shadow creation. Basically when you shift, you leave the Umbral Blade behind you. which can home to enemies, and they can also crit. So basically another source of crits. The Dragonfire proc can come. It's good for arena, it's good for bosses, but it's not good for Monolith because you always move and the Umbral Blades are behind you, so you basically don't really use them a lot. Yeah, that's pretty much the skills, and that's the reason why I went for Multishot, because simply for bossing it's just absolutely amazing to melt them and to destroy them a little bit faster. About the passives, we start here. I put aim points into here for the attack speed. Like I said, attack speed. Most important stats, because the more you basically attack, or yeah, the more often you attack, because there's a higher chance to proc Dragonfire. Then 8 points immediately into here for the dex and for the health. Once I got them, I went immediately for sapping strikes, because then I was able to sustain Cinder Strike. After those, I went immediately for Marksman to get the bow attack speed again. I think then I went immediately also for this one to get more dexterity. 1 point here, 10 points. This is, like I said, the most important node on the passives to basically crit all the time. Put 10 points into here, the classic 5 points to get the crit strike avoidance. The bow critical strike multiplier is not that important, so we look for global critical strike multiplier, because Cinder Strike is not doing a lot of damage. It's only the Dragonfire which is doing damage. And I went here, 1 point, 1 point first, 4 points here to get 5 points from Death from Afar. Armor Shred and Stun chance is really strong. Like, we have so much attack speed that you can apply so much Armor Shred in the stun. And also the stun, you see the enemies all the time that they are getting interrupted or stunned and they cannot attack, so it's a really good defensive layout also to go here. So I immediately rush this node here. We only need 1 point because crit, like I said, is already enough, but 5 points in here to get a big global crit multiplier boost, and also the health on crit. All the health on crit or on hit is coming from here, it's coming from here, coming from here, and it's coming from your relic. So huge sustain. We don't need like the regular leech, for example. This one doesn't really work because we don't do a lot of Cinder Strike damage. That's why we go for on hit leech. After I basically reached this setup, I went for all the other nodes. It's not really that important where you go next. I think I choose to go more on the dodge side, so only 1 point here. Here I will reach 6 at the end, 5 here. I put this one also to 6 to get more attack speed. 1 point here and 2 points here for more arrows on Multishot. The more arrows on Multishot we have, of course, so basically +4 means 4 more crits, which means 4 more Dragonfire procs, so damage goes absolutely nuts with each arrow. And for Blade Dancer, classic 8 points in here to get the Glancing Blow and the Dexterity, really strong node. And the rest of the points I put in here to get a little bit higher Glancing Blow base, 31, and then the rest comes from Arrow Guard. And here, those will be my last points, so 1 here, 5 here. Try to get as much increased dodge rating, not the flat, because flat we already get from Cinder Strike. So pretty much all your gear should have increased dodge rating and not flat dodge rating. The last 5 points will go into here, just to have a little bit more haste on hit. And the increased damage, it's a global damage for each point of move. Good thing is with the haste on hit, you attack, and you have the whirling burning daggers. When you move, they still auto attack, and each hit applies the haste. So you have really high movement speed all the time. It's not really necessary, but I will use it at the end. I'm sitting at level 90, and at the end I will have the 5 points here, and like I said, the 6 points here. Those are pretty much all the passives that you want for this build. Gear. So Dragonsong, as I said, required. Morning Frost, as I said, required. The techniques that I recommend is Arrow Guard. You can use Aurora's Time Glass for Arena. It has really good stats also. Increased attack speed, like attack speed, best stat. Wherever you can get it, take it. Also Endurance here, then you don't have to get Endurance here, for example, to reach it. I still don't have 60%. I'm trying to get it with the blessings also. Rest of the gear. I will just quickly go over it. So you want increased cooldown recovery, the dexterity, increased health, and normally flat health, like here. So this is the minimum or the best helmet that you can get with the critical strike multiplier. I just went with this one for the resistances. Here you want dexterity, vitality, increased dodge rating, not the flat one, and increased health. For the rings, you can either go gold rings or silver rings. It's up to you. I just had a little mix to balance my resistances. Cold or elemental damage. Remember that our main damage source comes from the boots, so it's flat cold damage, not fire. Cold gives you higher values compared to elemental. I would even suggest to go elemental, so that you of course also add a little bit more damage with Cinder Strike. The only source where you cannot get elemental damage is on the belt, that's why I went cold here, but here I would recommend Dex, elemental damage, resistances or health. Same with here, we don't need mana regen, I still need a better ring here. For gloves, you either take the void resistance or the endurance base, with critical strike chance, dexterity, resistance, hybrid health. This one, like I said, the best idol, sorry, not the best idol, the best relic. Critical strike multiplier or dexterity. I would recommend dexterity, which flat point is pretty much the best for damage. Cinder Strike, try to get +2. Endurance or resistance and frailty. For amulet, also really bad amulet yet. I mean, as you can see, mediocre gear, but I still wreck endgame. You want cold penetration, you want crit multi, you want health, increased dodge, definitely here, or resistances. And for the quiver right now, I'm playing with this quiver because it has way more damage. Like I said, I will switch once I have some LP on it. And for the belt, cold damage, the cleanse and ailment, increased dodge rating and hybrid health. So those are pretty much stats you want on your gear. For idols, I would recommend Throne of Ambition. It works absolutely amazing with this build. We get increased fire damage, increased cold damage, and increased armor when we attack a rare or a boss enemy. You saw the stats before. Fire damage, cold damage, of course, perfect for our build. I would recommend also to have one idol like this with increased bow attack speed and the dodge rating if hit recently. The thing is, we are always in cold and close range to the enemy, so basically we get hit a lot. Once you get hit, you get a lot of flat dodge, so this is why I recommend this one. If you don't have it, or if you have problems with resistances, just make a full setup full of resistances and health. This is the way that I go right now. There's a really cool idol, 1x3, which gives you increased health and increased elemental damage. It's really rare though, I can confirm this. I only got it with the right prefix or the right suffix, but to get it together is really hard. So this setup is also complete if you want to play like this. Legendaries. So, like I said, Dragonsong, the Morning Frost, and the Arrow Guards are basically the uniques that you are aiming for to get legendary potential. Dragonsong, I would recommend bow attack speed, most of the important stat, then crit multi, then chill chance, and then for the stun. For Arrow Guard, you go also bow attack speed, dexterity, chill, slow, or resistances, or even shred. You can go also shred, which is really strong in this build. And for Morning Frost, first movement speed, then dexterity, then increased dodge rating, and then hybrid health. Those would be the perfect stats for legendary items. For Auroras, it's really hard to get LP here, but just try to get some resistances or life. That would be enough. But you don't need to play Auroras. It's just a tip for arena gameplay. Blessings. I still have to farm this one on Empowered. I would really like to have the crit multi on Black Sun. You can also go health or dodge. Crit avoidance, always go crit avoidance with a Marksman, because then you don't need it on your gear. 35% from here, and then from the Blessing. I'm sitting at 93, sadly, so I will run it probably one more time. endurance, the Spirits of Fire timeline. Try to get also the high one on Empowered Monolith. Physical resistance or cold resistance. You could also go cold shred, but I would recommend to go resistances for this build. And for Lagoon, you go for resistance. I think there is not any more interesting here. This is the blessing setup. Did I miss anything? I think dexterity you can reach up to 90, somewhere like this. So there's still a lot of room to improve. Just wanted to show you that you can, with pretty much mediocre gear, you can do all the end game. Health you can go up to 2k. Wind speed you can get a little bit higher. So really strong build. I could highly recommend it if you want to play it and want to play something new, because it's basically Bow Mage 2.0. I would say a little bit better even, because you're more tanky, better stats at the end, and you can just absolutely wreck endgame. So 300 corruption, 300 arena, definitely possible. I will keep you updated because I will continue to play this character because it's so much fun to do. Alright, that's it. If you have any questions, like I said, leave a comment down below, and thanks for watching. I will see you next time.